This is Dr. Carroll, and in this video I'm going to step through creating a class and talk about the different parts of the class, and we're going to watch it execute. So let's get to it. Let's use the example of a bank account, a very simple bank account, one that just has a balance that we're going to try and store, that we're going to store, and we're going to add some ability to be able to make deposits and make withdrawals and to be able to get the balance. A really simple class. And so if we look at that as a specification, then what we would look at, okay, well, we had the noun balance in there, so we'll grab on that and we'll want to store that. And a bank account is a noun. We're gonna make that our object. So we saw there was some actions, deposits, withdrawals, inquiries of balance. We're gonna use those as our methods. So let's get to it. So here we have our class, simple bank account. Now it's public so that other classes can use it. It's class, that's the keyword, and then simple bank account's the name we chose, and therefore the name of the Java file has to be simplebankaccount.java. We also have the curly braces here so that it knows, the compiler knows where the class starts and ends. And then when we have a class, we should document it. More about that in another video. And then as I mentioned, we're going to store a balance. And so here we create a double. We're just going to be able to track cents as well as dollars. And then we make it private so only members of this class can access it. And that's good design in general. Rarely do you make instance variables anything but private. The most common exception being for inheritance. But so just in general, default to making all instance variables private. And so here we're labeling an instance variable just to help make that more concrete. Now with a class, we need to have a constructor if we need to initialize something. So here we're initializing balance. Notice we're not declaring the variable, we're using this variable, our instance variable here, that's already been declared, we're using inside this method. And so when it's called, the constructor has a couple special things about it that we'll talk about in another video, but just know that we have a constructor, and what it does is it initializes our instance variables, and it's called when a new variable is created. So let's look at another method that we're providing here. So we want to be able to deposit money, right? So here we declare it public, which means any class that has access to simple bank account can call the deposit method for that object. We want different classes to be able to use that method and deposit it. It's part of the interface we're providing, and it needs to take as an argument a double so that it knows how much to deposit. And so we'll take this instance variable balance and we're going to increase it by the amount. So if we have multiple bank accounts, each one of them is going to have a balance, and each one of them, you can think of it as its own copy of a deposit method which acts on its respective balance. So if we have 3 bank accounts, we have 3 different balances, and the deposit method will add it to the right balance and get that right. Okay. Another method could be withdraw. How much do we want to withdraw? And so again, we want to make this public, and it's going to return a Boolean here. And so we need to test if there's funds in the account, and so then we'll decrement the balance appropriately. Here we're using the compound operator, and here we're doing a test. And so we're saying, hey, was it successful? Did we actually decrease the balance or not? And we have the documentation as well here. And finally, we have the last one, the get balance method, and all it does, and notice it's public so anybody can access it, is it just returns the balance, because what we want to do is we've hidden balance away. No methods outside of simple bank account can access this variable directly, and so we give access to it with this method here. Okay, now that we have a simple bank account, let's create a driver for it. So let's create a class, we'll call it transactions, to exercise our simple bank account. And we want to make it public so other classes can use it. And we'll have some documentation associated with it as well. I type fast, don't I? And now we need a main, because this is where execution is going to start. Notice in simple bank account we did not have a main method. That's not its role. And so it's to provide a balance and methods to be able to change that balance. And so the tester code is separate here. And so we have the main outside of it. And so we're going to declare a variable to be of type simple bank account. And let's say we have checking. So this declares a variable of type named checking of type simple bank account. So it's not referencing anything yet, but in memory we've set aside, hey, we're going to have this reference to be able to point to a simple bank account. So then now to assign it to one, we have checking and then the assignment operator. We use the new keyword, which we'll call the constructor, and we specify what type of object we want, and then we use the parentheses and the semicolon. Now we've created an instance of a simple bank account, and it's being referenced by checking. So let's put some money in. Okay, we made some deposits. Now these deposits have changed the balance associated with this checking variable. The object that checking is referencing, its balance just went up by $123.45, and then another $221.98. Woohoo! So, and we can display that. But notice, oh, BlueJ has given me this red underline. We can't just call checking.balance here, because balance has private access in simple bank account. Thank you, BlueJ. So that won't work. So let's comment that out and write not valid. Sorry, it goes off the screen here. And so what do? We can't access it directly. This is trying to access that private instance variable, and that's not allowed. The compiler won't let us. And the BlueJ has like a mini compiler going on as you type to be able to give you a heads up. And so we could make a call to get balance, calling checking.getBalance, and that will retrieve the balance, and then we'll concatenate that with the balance string and then display that. And so then that's how we get out the balance. Notice we're making a method call, a public method call, because we cannot access a private data member. Now let's say we make a withdrawal of $250, a nice dinner. I think for my full family, it probably, yeah, that might actually do it if we took everyone out to eat. And now the balance is lower. Now this was all one account, so this is one instantiation. Now let's make another one. Let's declare a simple bank account variable named savings here, and we're also initializing it by calling the constructor. We do that with the new keyword, and then we're calling the constructor here. Don't forget the semicolon. And so we can call get balance on it and be able to do that and display it. And so what will it be initially? We'll see. And then we can deposit more money, and then we can get its balance. Now, when we were here and we had declared checking, we couldn't call the checking.deposit because it wasn't referencing any object. At this point, it's actually the value in the variable checking is null. That's a reserved keyword, reserved literal, often thought of as a keyword, and so it's pointing to null. You could think of it, or it's not pointing anywhere. It's null, and so if we called checking.deposit, if we took out this line and it's not referencing any object, it would crash, and it would yell at us, and it wouldn't be pretty. So let's execute this. I'm going to employ Python Tutor, which actually supports 7 different languages, as the name does not suggest. And I've pasted this code in, and since it only supports one class, I've just appended the main method right inside of the simple bank account class, just to make it so it will work here. It's the same code I just showed you. So let's step through this and watch these objects get created here. So here we are. We've declared a simple bank account, a checking variable. And so notice the legend here. So the red is the next line that's going to be executed, and the faint green line will be what just executed. So when we call, when we're calling new, as I mentioned, it took us to the constructor, and then it's handling that, and now we set balance equal to 0. So here we are inside the simple bank account class, and it has this reference, and so it has a balance. At this point it's 0, it's a double, so it's 0.0, and so we're just making sure that's clear by setting explicitly to 0, and then we're done with the constructor, and there's no return value. And so now we're done with this call. Now we're going to assign that to checking. Okay, checking actually existed before this, but it got optimized away. So now checking references this simple bank account instance, and I would have preferred to draw it as a circle, but I'm glad that they wrote this visualization, so I'm happy to use it. So now checking is a reference variable that is referencing this object. It's very simple. It only has one data item whose current value is 0. So now let's make a deposit into checking. And so we're calling the deposit method here, and it knows about this. We're calling it on the simple bank account here, and so it has a reference this to it, and we've passed it in the amount 123.45. So we go through, we add that to the balance. It was 0, yay! Now we have positive funds in our checking account, nothing to return. We do this again, another call to checking, and we add it in here. You're welcome to come to Python Tutor /java.html and paste in your code and have it execute and see it as well. So remember, we commented this out because it wouldn't even compile, and now here we're calling get balance, okay, and system.println after that. So first we call get balance, and so now it's just going to retrieve the balance from our checking object, and we do that, and so then it returns this double here, of which gets passed to and concatenated with this string literal here, and then it's displayed. So sure enough, balance 345.43. There we go. Now here's our nice dinner. Oh, that was good. Oh wait, do we have the funds? We do have the funds because the balance is $345.43. So we take away the 250, and then we return that yes, it was able to make the withdrawal, and then we can display our new balance here by calling get balance and then passing that to system.out.println, and there we go. Now here's, I think, where it gets interesting, and it's even more helpful that we have the visualization. We just called the constructor again using new, but now it's on a different object. We've created another object. Notice that there is 2 of them. We have a checking, a reference to a simple bank account, and we have a savings, which is a reference to a simple bank account. And they're different. They have different balances here. And so we could display that balance It's 0 initially. Boring. And then let's make a good deposit. We worked a lot. And so notice when we call savings.deposit, it's on this instance here, not the checking. And so it keeps it straight. So it's the same code, but balance here refers to this balance because it's a separate instantiation of it. You see the beauty of this? You can write code once and then you reuse it, reuse it, reuse it. Now we've changed the savings instance balance and increased that, and then we're done with our deposit, and then we can see that, and when we call savings.getBalance here, it's going to this object, it's calling the getBalance method here, and which is accessing this, its private balance instance variable, and then returning a copy of its value. And then it displays it there. The balance for savings is that. Okay, there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. Feel free to use pythontutor.com, java.html to visualize your code, and let me know if you have questions.